Fine, Mahalingam, let's start. I think all of you know Dr. Mahalingam, and he's the right person to speak on Pangani labor migration because he has worked on uh, actually old diaspora, Malaysia, Indian diaspora, Tamils in Malaysia, and he is very familiar with that segment of migration. You can call colonial migration. So without taking much time, he is already familiar to you, so I need not to elaborate much about him. So over to you, Dr. Mahalingam.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Sahu, for this very brief introduction. Yes, I am so familiar with all the students. Good afternoon. Hope it's good afternoon to many of you, or good morning, maybe, I don't know, from
There is some noise coming from your side, I think.
Acha, what noise? Like, tell me,
like echo or something.
Okay, I'll just do one thing. I'll switch up the fan.
Best.
Yeah, just give me a minute. Is it fine now?
It's okay, fine now.
Okay,
so,
because
I just request all of you, see, whenever somebody is coming, they're expert in that area, please ask as many as questions, and they'll be very happy. Not necessarily they'll answer everything, but it will be very important you ask questions. Okay, so over to you, Mahalingam.
yes, my screen is visible.
It's coming slowly. Yes, visible now.
Okay. Good afternoon. Today I'll be discussing on Kangani or Mesti labor migration, which is not so familiar, unlike what endangered labor migration. In the last class, I discussed about endangered labor migration. So which is very documented, well known. You can say lots of studies on endangered labor migration, because it was one of the major labor migration that took place in colonial time. But this Kangani and Mesti labor migration is only confined to few countries. And also, it's a South Indian phenomenon. I should say that most of the laborers from South India, they had undergone this, recruitment of Kangani and Mestri labor migration to countries like Sri Lanka, Malaysia, Burma. Now it's called Myanmar. Okay, so these countries where this migration, this recruitment pattern was adopted by the British government. Okay, so that's what today I'm going to discuss about this Kangani Mestri labor migration. So the next slide will give you an idea about, the route, of the Indian labor migration to Malaya and Burma. All this picture gives you, the route. Like for example, you see from South India, particularly Tamil Nadu, Andhra, this part of South India, where this recruitment was followed, Kangani and Mestri recruitment system of unskilled labor migration, to these countries like Myanmar, Malaysia, or Burma, Sri Lanka as well. I think the map is clear to you and you will get an idea, okay, where this migration took place. Okay. Kangani system was replaced, the Indian system, the Indian system was replaced with Kangani system, to Ceylon or Sri Lanka, it's known today, and Malaya, it's known today as Malaysia, and Mestri system was, adopted to Burma, or it's known as today Myanmar. Relatively, the Kangani and Mestri systems were informal, less regulated, lesser documented, cheaper, and alternate contractual labor recruitment systems than the indentured labor system. Okay, so the Kangani and Mestri systems were informal, less regulated, lesser documented, cheaper, and alternate contractual labor recruitment systems than the indentured system. That's the point you have to understand. The difference between the indentured and Maestri or Kangani system. I want to throw a question to all of you. How many of you have any idea about Kangani Maestri system? Can you just open up your mic and speak to me? Okay.
Hello.
Yes.
Hello, sir. I've been working in tea plantations and coffee plantation for last 14-15 years. So in North India, South India, even at Nigeria.
Achha, what is your good name?
My name is Manish.
Achha, Manish. Okay, Manish, you are okay. So tell me, what is what is the meaning of Kangani Maestri system? Do you have any idea about this, or still it is practiced, or it is still existing in those plantations?
It is still existing. Kanganis or Mestris are generally the designations given for the on-field labor supervisors.
Yes, yes, you're right. Yeah, they are nothing but, Kangani is a Tamil term, which means supervisor, foreman. Okay, he was all in all. That's what I'm going to explain, the role of Kangani in the labor migration, as well as the role of Kangani on the tea plantations or rubber plantations. But please look at the slide. Kangani system was, followed for the countries like Ceylon or Sri Lanka today and Malaysia. Okay, these two countries where this Kangani system was in practice. Sri Lanka, still they do this. They still have the system because Malaysia, almost the plantations were demolished, and I think now no longer Kangani system is in practice. Maestri system was followed to Burma. Okay, so then it was an informal system. That's why I said, unlike the indentured system, which was well documented, it had a well-defined procedures. The process was well clear, well defined, but it was very informal system and less regulated. It was like not clearly defined guidelines for this labor migration. It seemed that these systems were far more voluminous in magnitude than indentured labor system, which means there's a study by Jaiswal, by a Delhi University student. He has worked on this Kangani and Maestri system of labor migration. His thesis was on that. So he has really documented how the system was, in practice in colonial time. It was also colonial labor migration. It was part of colonial labor migration. See, the emigration of 30 million Indians to Burma, Ceylon, and Malaya took place, after which 90% through Kangani and Maestri system. In these countries like Ceylon or Sri Lanka or Malaya or Malaysia, Burma or Myanmar, the Indian system was not so popular. In the beginning it was introduced, but it was not going well. So they introduced this Kangani and Maestri system to get the laborers which they needed for the plantations. It was affirmed that over 1.7 million Indians were recruited to work in Malaya, including Singapore. That time, Singapore was part of Malaysia, Malaya. It got independence only from 1965. It was separated from Malaysia, in 1967. Over 1.6 million to Burma and roughly about 1 million to Ceylon between 1840 and 1942 under the labor recruitment regions of Kangani and Maestri system. So it was also equally, very important labor recruitment system, but there was less studies. There were less studies about this Kangani and Maestri system. That's what, the scarcity of literature you find on this Kangani labor and this, Maestri system. Yes, Vijaya Nair, you have a question? Go ahead.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah.
Regarding the question about Mestri system, you said it is not existed, but I just want to share my experience. Like during 90s, early 90s, when I was in India, in Mangalore, MRPL, Mangalore Petrochemicals, they were constructing the like construction work was going on, that project construction. During that period, a large number of laborers with the same system were hired to construct the colonies and construct that MRPL project construction work. And even in my last visit in 2018, I visited to Telangana. That time also I have seen in some of the parts, still that Mestri system is going on. Even now, the Mestris are taking people from their village and they're internally, they're using them for construction work.
Okay. No, see, that's what I'm telling you. This that system, like I told you in the last class, this Mestri Gangani system also were introduced by the British. The British state itself introduced. They were instrumental in implementing this recruitment system. But now also they, even for construction workers, they have Mestris, all that. But I'm not talking about those kind of Mestris. I'm just talking about the state initiated labor recruitment system. The state also approved the system. That's what I wanted to state. See, this kind of informal Mestris are still their practice in southern India. Mestris are the laborers, they work under the Mestris on the construction sites. But here we're talking about the Mestri and Kangani system. These systems were approved and implemented by the state itself. That's what we are discussing. And also, I told you these systems were only practiced in southern India. It was a southern Indian phenomenon. In India, the labor system was followed in North India. Okay, there were no Kangani or Mestri systems in the northern parts of India. Okay, the labor recruits for the Kangani and Mestri systems were commonly drawn from the erstwhile Madras Presidency. Why it's called erstwhile Madras Presidency? Madras Presidency was consisting of the present Andhra Pradesh, a part of Karnataka, a part of Kerala. It was known as Madras Presidency. So these laborers were taken from the Madras Presidency. Even Madras Presidency was up to Vizag, the today Vizag, also was part of the Madras Presidency. It was predominantly Tamil laborers in the case of Kangani, and Telugu laborers in the case of Mestri system. Okay, the Mestri system was only adopted to Burma, not to Malaya or Ceylon. Okay, Malaya and Ceylon they adopted to this Kangani system only. Okay, the Mestri system was only adopted to Burma or Myanmar. Okay, so I think it's very clear. Kangani was a Tamil phenomenon and Tamil labor phenomenon, and Telugu laborers were recruited through Mestri system. The Tamil region of Madras Presidency emerged as a hinterland, providing surplus labor force to tea, coffee, and rubber plantations of Western Ghats. Not only for Malaya, Ceylon, even for Western Ghats, like for example, Nilgiris, okay, Coorg, these kinds of plantations, also received Tamil laborers, Malaya, Ceylon, and also for rice farming in Burma. Okay, and the next one, even though both the systems had a resemblance in terms of its nature and characteristics, it had differences in terms of operation and labor regime. Okay, so Mestri and Kangani systems were looking like similar, but both had a lot of differences in terms of what? Labor control and also in terms of its operations. Kangani system and Mestri system were different, though they had similar characteristics. Today, let us discuss in detail. Now you got an idea what is Mestri system, where it was followed, and what is Kangani systems. Before getting into the topic, I just like to know your point of view. How you have taken my class so far. So Manish, can you just answer my, can you sum up what I was discussing so far? Manish? Manish is there, or Vijaya, can you do that? Jaya. Then Irfan. Who's there? Irfan is there. You can unmute. You know, people can unmute.
Hello, sir.
Okay.
This is Anu.
Yes. Yeah.
Sir,
Who's
I
this?
am from this Anu. Anu.
Yes, Anu, go ahead. Just can you sum up my class? Yeah.
Yes, sir. This is I from your class. I got to understand that this is Kangani and Maestri labor migration system is governed by the state.
Yeah.
Informal. They are identified labor contractors.
Yeah,
They
it's
are
a
called Kangani and Maestri, and their responsibility is to recruit people informally and migrate. Is that
yeah.
correct, sir? Okay, this is what I got from that, and this is
Yes, Anu, where are you
regulated but from Kerala.
Okay, Anu. See, it was an informal system and also less documented, less
Documented.
regulated system, labor recruitment
Okay.
system, unlike the endangered labor system. That's what the
Yes,
point is. Okay.
So, as per endangered labor system, there is labor contract, prepared one, there in black and white. But
Yeah.
here it is not. There is the absence of that contract.
Yes,
But
yes.
the procedure is the same.
No, the procedures are there, but it was not so rigidly followed.
Okay,
Okay.
sir.
It was not followed very rigidly. That's what, no, we lack documents. You know,
Okay.
unlike endangered labor, if you go to archives, you will find lots of documents about the labor, name and how, from which place. But on the other hand, Kangani system, if they don't have documents, the government did not maintain any record of the labor migrants, either in the host country or from the what you call the people from India. Like even India also did not maintain the record, because I said it's a less regulated, it's not very formal, and also it was very informal kind of labor migration. That's why I said it's called informal, because it's lacking any documents. Yeah, the labor contract or anything, we could not trace it. It was not in practice, of course. That's of meaning. Okay. Anu, it's fine.
Sir,
Yeah.
I have a doubt also, because whether they replace in the system or whether they are coexistent, because same time there were
it coexisted together, and it was this Hungani system was adopted to Ceylon and also to Malaya, and this Maestri system was followed for Burma. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. What about Manish and Vijaya? You didn't respond. I think you are not. You left the class or what? Huh? I want to know the feedback from others. Like, for example, Abba Mishra is there. Abba, and also Irfan. Who else? Huh? Okay. So
Yes,
I'm going to. Who's this? Who
sir,
said
this
yes?
is Iram.
Ira?
Iram Irfan.
Yeah, it's Irfan. Okay. So you're following the class?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So now let's discuss about Kangani system in Sri Lanka first. Okay. Then we'll go to Kangani system in Malaysia. Then finally we'll discuss about Maestri system in Burma. Okay. Ceylon was the first British colony to receive the unskilled laborers through Kangani system. Okay, the Kangani system can be traced back to the expansion of plantation agriculture in Sri Lanka. Okay, so the Kangani system started with, labor migration to Sri Lanka or Ceylon. It was known as Ceylon at that point of time. The term Kangani is derived from Tamil language, which means headman, overseer, or supervisor, or foreman. These are the meaning of the English term Kangani. Now, Kangani means these are the terms in English: headman, foreman, overseer, and supervisor. Okay, these are the English terms for the term Kangani. Okay, Anu, is it fine? So Kangani means headman,
Okay, sir.
foreman, okay,
Yes,
supervisor.
sir,
Yeah, that's the meaning in Kangani is a Tamil word. Okay, that's the word. Yes. Kangani was recruiter and also he was a foreman both. He was a recruiter as well as he was the head man on the plantation to look after the laborers who were employed in a particular plantation. Under the Kangani system, Tamil foremen working on a plantation was sent to their villages in India by the planters to recruit their kinsmen. See, one thing you have to understand from the endangered labor, the Kangani laborers, the laborers who were taken from India to Ceylon or Malaysia, most of the laborers were related to the Kangani. Kangani means, see, a laborer was working good. He was chosen by the planter. Okay, you go to your village and bring the laborers. That's what, it was very informal kind of thing. Okay, suppose I went to Sri Lanka, where I worked very hard on the plantation. The planter saw my work. Then he picked me up. Okay, Mahalingam, you go and bring more laborers from your village. Okay, so that kind of practice was. So Kangani system, most of the laborers were the kinsmen related to the Kangani. Okay, whether a village man or neighboring village. Okay, that kind of a kinship kind of based labor migration. I mean, in general, but of course, even non-kin men also migrate through Kangani system. Okay. So instead of relying on labor recruiters, planters took the help of trusted workers. Okay, usually workers who had done well for themselves. They were picked up by the planter, the employers, to send them to the India. I mean, to Madras presidency. Okay, go and bring more laborers from your village. Okay, that's what the debt remained central to the system. So this system was, I was given advance. Okay, the Kangani came to India. He went to his village, neighboring village, and he gave advance money to the laborers who wanted to migrate. And that's why the debt. That why it was always, part of this Kangani system. Okay, then how it evolved. The Kangani system has evolved over the years. Okay, Kangani was given advance money by the planter to recruit the laborers from his native village or nearby villages by telling them about high wages, savings, free and safe, okay, onward as well as return journey. Okay, so Kangani system has evolved over the years. Okay, so this is the pattern. A planter or an employer would give the advance money to the Kangani. He will come to India or he'll go to his village. He will give the advance money and he will bring the laborers. They were guaranteed money for onward and also return journey to the village. He would set out with a gang of indenturing laborers and would conduct themselves to the estates. See, Sri Lanka was not so far from Tamil Nadu. So no, they would go and also they would come back. So the laborers were given money for their journeys. Okay, that's the thing. The early Kangani system developed in the 1820s. Okay, Tamil laborers migrated seasonally in gangs from the South Indian coastal district, particularly from Ramanathapuram, the eastern coastal areas, like for example, Ramnath, then Tirunelveli, these districts were supplying laborers to Sri Lanka, particularly the untouchables, they were taken to these plantations. When coffee cultivation was introduced initially, 10,000 Tamil laborers were recruited through Kangani system. Okay, so that's what the Kangani was. That's what the early Kangani system developed in the 1820s. Okay, but after half a decade, there was a conversion of plantation from coffee to tea and rubber, leading to an increase of laborers around 650,000 on the estates. So these laborers were recruited through Kangani system. Why Kangani system came into being? Why Indian system replaced with Kangani system? Why? Because they wanted more laborers. Indian system was taking more time. The formalities were to be followed. But on the other hand, Kangani system was, as I pointed out, was very informal. So they could get more laborers to the market. With the expansion and extension of plantation agriculture in Ceylon over the years, the planters increasingly relied on the Kanganis to get the needy laborers. It resulted in the different types of Kanganis over a period of time. Okay, so Kanganis to get the needy laborers. It resulted in the different types of Kangani system also. So the Kangani system was also evolved from the early Kangani system to, the new one. See, for example, 6 different types of Kanganis could be identified. The early Kangani, the professional Kangani, the crimping Kangani, the head Kangani, the controlled Kangani, and the contemporary Kangani. That's what an Englishman called, Heidman, who has studied about the Kangani system in Sri Lanka. It's a very good book. I really enjoy reading that. He has documented well about the Kangani system. Only one book available on Kangani system, that is by Heidman. Okay, he wrote about in the year 1990. I mean, he published it in 1990, which is a very interesting book on Kangani system. Very small book. It runs into less than 100 pages. That's the only documentation we have on Kangani system. I'll tell you. I warn you. I mean, this is what I told you also in the beginning. There was no much studies on the system because no evidence. Unlike the integer system, you have all the documents to go and try. I mean, you can try to look at those documents and you can interpret. But this Kangani system was very informal, which was lacking documents. It seems that different types of Kangani system coexisted together in Ceylon at the same time. Okay, what is this early Kangani? Which was he was the head of the labor gang. He recruited people, he took them, and also he was supervising them. The professional Kangani was little formal. Okay, and crimping Kangani means a Kangani who was trying to recruit the laborers who were escaping from the other estates. Suppose I joined in an estate, but I was not happy. Then what I walked out of the estate. Then the Kangani saw me on the road. Then he recruited me to other estate. That's called crimping Kangani. Okay. Then head Kangani was the other hierarchy. Okay, in the estate you had a head Kangani, then junior Kangani, like that kind of hierarchy developed. Then controlled Kangani, okay, which means the Kangani system became very rigid. Then the present Kangani, who was not so rigid like the early Kangani, all that. So these kind of types, varieties of Kanganis, came into being on the estates of Ceylon. As mentioned above, the early Kangani system had begun with the coffee, okay, then tea, then other crops like rubber, all that. That's what, okay. According to Heidman, okay, that's what he distinguished 6 types of Kangani. The early Kangani system had begun with the coffee was introduced as a plantation crop in Ceylon. The professional Kangani system came into being in 1850s as the planters started giving advancing money for the recruitment. Okay, see the crimping, Kangani, and there's labor shortage. Some Kanganis trying to recruit the labor gangs on the way to plantations from India through various dubious means, that's called crimping Kanganis. Okay, then the crimped Kanganis assisted the runaway laborers from estate to find a work in the other plantations. Okay, then there was this system called Tundu system, which means a surplus laborers were sold. Yes, the planter sold his surplus laborer force to his Kangani by issuing receipt of cash or promissory note, a certificate called Tundu. In Tamil, Tundu means piece of paper. Okay, so by Tundu system, the other planter who was need of labor force hired the laborers by paying the cash to the Kangani, that's called Tundu system, was in practice. It's like exchange of laborers between different planters. For that, the Kanganis adopted to Tundu system. Okay, so clear now? I mean, Iram is clear, Ira. What I'm trying to
Yes,
explain.
sir.
So
Yes, sir.
you're following my class, Ira? Hope you're following, eh? Yeah. This method helped the planters to recover the expenses incurred for the recruitment of laborers as well as control the power of Kangani over laborers. It was known as Tundu system that ensured more flexible labor supply. Okay, so Tundu system was in practice for the exchange of laborers, okay, between the planters. That's what. Some Kangani families, they became a monopoly on the labor force in particular estate. So Kangani gradually became a powerful man. You know why? Because he was a recruiter as well as he was the head man who supervised the work of the laborers. Okay, only through Kangani you can approach the planters. So Kangani was a middleman between the planter and the laborers. So he assumed.
Can I ask a question, small question here?
Yes,
Abha.
Abba, yes,
Yeah,
Abba.
I just wanted to understand, while the Kangani was, of course, getting a salary from the planters and other things, was there any other benefit he used to get for the number of laborers he used to get? Because even in today's system, where we have bonded labor in a way in the bricklins and other things, internal migration, these are not the international migration. You do have a system, the same system continuing. The difference, I mean, as far as I understand, the bonded labor's work which is going in bricklins, they are also paid additionally for each of the laborers they get. Something very small amount. So did the Kanganis also get any benefit, additional benefit?
Of course,
that's my question. Thank you.
That's implied, Abba, because he was getting commission. Suppose a Kangani is getting around 100 laborers, he also will be getting commissions, for the labor recruitment. That's why, he was getting the commission for gaining, bringing laborers, and also he was the one who was distributing the salary to the laborers. Okay, and also that's why see that the last line, Kangani families became very powerful. The Kangani, he became a very strong man in the estate. He was the only link between the planter and the laborers. Even the planter may not know who was working on the plantation, like indentured labor. Okay, but here the Kangani was the one who knew that, okay, I employed these people, I'm just paying him. So he was like, suppose I'm a laborer, I'm facing some problem, so I can't go to the planter, was not responsible. Who was responsible? The Kangani. So the planter was entirely relying on Kangani, labor also relying entirely on Kangani. So the Kangani became a very strong social group among the plantation laborers in Ceylon as well as in Sri Lanka. Sorry, Ceylon and also in Malaysia. Okay, but Malaysia was the systems Malaysia adopted very late. So the Kangani system became a little refined than the Sri Lanka. Okay, so that's why I said Kangani became not only a recruiter, he was also supervisor and also well-wisher. He was a middleman or intermediary between the planter and the laborers. That's why the Kangani became monopoly figure on the plantation. Okay, so the professional Kangani system ensured the permanent settlement of laborers on the plantations. It led to an emergence of new social order on the plantation. Okay, the professional Kangani, I told you, from this system, the planters started giving advance money. It was not the case before. That's why it was called known as professional Kangani system in Ceylon. So you find these 6 types in Ceylon only, in Sri Lanka only, not in Malaysia. Okay, Malaysia had only 1 Kangani. Okay, but Ceylon had these 6 types of Kanganis because Ceylon was the country where this Kangani system was introduced to get more laborers. Okay, So head Kangani system also came into being. Then it's called senior Kangani. Okay, then you have a sub Kanganis, okay, or Sillara Kangani, or Chinna Kangani, these all Tamil terms. Okay, so gradually the work of the Kangani became, much divided. That's why you got the hierarchy, head Kangani, sub Kangani, all this, divisions started emerging. Okay, so there was a demand for permanent labor force on the tea plantation. The head Kangani was given huge advances to recruit the needed laborers. The successful head Kanganis started supplying laborers to several estates. Over the years, these head Kanganis have gained the professional skills leading to attain bargaining position over the planter. Okay, so Kangani became an important link or intermediary between the laborers and management. So that's why the Kanganis became so rich by wealth, because they got the work. I mean, they got salary for working as a Kangani as well as for recruiting laborers. Okay, so he became a very inevitable figure under the plantation social and economic system and monopolized the labor recruitment of the Ceylon government, and planters decided to, curtail, control, restrict the power of the Kangani. Okay, so for that, they introduced a new system that's called tin ticket system, and also they set up Ceylon Labor Commission for the recruitment of laborers that control the operation of the Kanganis. Okay, why it was introduced here? Because the Kanganis became so strong, powerful, corrupt. Okay, because the planter also relied on them, and also laborers also relied on them. Because of that importance, so the Ceylon government decided to control or reduce the power of Kangani by appointing a commission that's called Ceylon Labor Commission for the recruitment of laborers and also to control the operation of the Kangani. Okay, it led to the advent of the controlled Kangani system that remained in practice until 1939, when migration was banned by the Indian government. Okay, then the tin ticket system was implemented, which means the Ceylon government took the responsibility for the transportation of the recruits from South India to the plantation in Ceylon, and the duty of the Kangani was restricted to recruitment alone, not the transportation. Okay, please listen carefully. Under the tin ticket system, a Kangani would go to the village, he would recruit the laborers, but the transportation was taken care of by the Ceylon government, not the Kangani. Okay, initially it was done by Kangani, recruitment plus transportation of the laborers. Okay, the tin ticket scheme was successful and reduced the risk involved on the way that had a strong control over the operations of Kanganis. Okay, 2 years after the commencement of the tin ticket system, 70% of all recruits came by the scheme. Okay, that's why the tin ticket system. Okay, so gradually the Kangani system declined, and today also Sri Lanka have huge estates. Still Kanganis are there. They are known as contemporary Kanganis, but they are being controlled by the trade unions. Okay, so trade union has lots of say in the matters of Kangani rule. That's what today. Okay, see, the decline of Kangani system began in the 1920s because of the political consciousness, trade unionism, or activism of the trade union, which led to the power of Kangani to decline. Then, like Nehru, other leaders, Mahatma Gandhi, they visited the plantations and they spoke about the human rights violations in that plantations by the planters as well as by the Kanganis, all that. So slowly this system, Kangani system, started declining. The power of the Kangani started declining, or the grip of the Kangani started declining, sliding down. Okay, the trade unionism also started spreading in the tea plantations of Sri Lanka, which led to the decline of the Kangani system. Okay, so this is what about Ceylon. Okay, but of course, this migration was known for exploitation, all that. They are suffering because lack of rights and all those. Sri Lanka is a very volatile country, politically, and these Indian laborers who settle there, they are having lots of issues. For example, they don't have citizenship issue they face because the Sri Lankan government is not giving them citizenship. So many issues are there with them still. Okay, that's a point. So please read literature on that. Now moving into the Kangani system in Malaysia. Okay, now we are just discussing about the Kangani system in the context of Malaysia. Like Ceylon, the Kangani system was replaced in Malaysia as well. Okay, I mean, the Kangani system was replicated in Malaya, but not the same. The Kangani system of Malaya was more formal and organized than Ceylon. You know why? Because Ceylon was the first country to introduce the system and it was not well developed. When it was introduced in Malaya or in the present Malaysia, it became little formal, more formal, you can say organized. So the Kangani system in Malaya gained a very popularity after the crop conversion from tea and coffee to rubber. Okay, when rubber was introduced, the Kangani system was introduced. You know why? Because rubber plantation needed very large number of workforce. So that's why this system was introduced in Malaya. The Kangani system replaced the endangered labor system after the abolition in 1910 because of the endangered system failed to get more laborers to Malaya. The Kangani system was cheap and also it ensured regular inflows of needy laborers. Okay, this system was considered as the best available option, which was cost effective, inexpensive, and ensured the regular supply of laborers. That's why it was little handy for the planters to get more laborers. Yeah. Then the social composition of the laborers, Kanganis, mostly they were non-Brahmin caste, and also the Adi Dravida are, there are two untouchable castes in Tamil Nadu called Parayan and Palla caste. These people, they were the Kanganis. Okay, the supervisor or the recruiter. The Kangani was usually linked to recruits by caste or even by kinship. Okay, Professor R.K. Jain has studied on Malaysian plantation laborers in 1970s. He documented, family, kin and caste ties were preserved and respected much more in the Kangani system. That's also the biggest drawback of the Kangani system, because Kangani system was able to preserve all this, caste identity, family identity, and also kinship, because he recruited from his own village or neighboring village. He knew them, all that. That's why these systems were replicated on these plantations, as it was practiced in South India. Unlike Ceylon, Kangani was not the paymaster of his labor gang in Malaya. The employers paid wages directly to each laborers. Okay, in Ceylon, I told you, paymaster, but in Malaya, it was not so. Okay, the pay was distributed by the plantation manager, who was an European. So the hold of the Kangani over the recruits or the labor force was reduced considerably in the context of Malaya. The labor relationship of Kangani was dynamic in nature. Not only was the recruiter come foreman or overseer, but also was a patron, negotiator, entrepreneur, and financier to the laborers. Okay, I told you, Kangani was not only recruiter or supervisor, he was a patron, he was a negotiator, he was also an entrepreneur. What do you mean by entrepreneur? He was running the estate shops. He was funding them, because he used to give money for interest to the laborers. He was a financier to the laborers. So these things were, common on the plantations. So he was like a patron, intervened and took decisions on the professional as well as domestic disputes of the laborers. Even he was like like a panchayat. Suppose there were disputes in the families of the laborers, he intervened and he resolved the problem of family disputes and all. So that's what on and off work relationship between Kangani and the recruiter. Okay, so the Kangani acts as a link, inevitable link or intermediary between the planter and our laborers on the Malaysian plantation or Malaysian plantation economic structure. Okay, so Kangani system of Malaya provided and met the demand of labor, and which was banned in 1938. Okay, so this is about Kangani system in Ceylon and Malaya. Okay, so clear now? Any doubts so far? You can ask me, then I'll go to Mesri system, which was adopted to Burma. Yes? Any doubts? Abba, Manish, Vijaya, Ira, and others. If you have any doubts, you feel free to ask me about Kangani system. Come on. No doubts. Can I go? Can I go further, or can I just take up your questions? Say yes or no.
Yeah. Sir, I have a question.
Yes.
Sir, is there any me, Atul Kumar Gupta, and I'm a research scholar from Banaras University, and I'm currently working on metal system in Burma, the Indian immigration to Burma.
What is your name? You said?
Sir, Atul Kumar Gupta is my name.
Atul Kumar. Yes. You're working on what topic?
Indian immigration to Burma, particularly, sir, Indian immigration to Burma in the colonial period.
Oh, good, good. Okay, yes, go ahead.
This lecture is going so important to me, sir, and very relevant too. Sir, my question is there any other reference for Kangani system, like you have mentioned earlier, that only one work by headman, that only one work. Is there any other references available? So
that's what Atul. This is what this migration is less documented, not much records available either in Sri Lanka or in Burma or Malaya. Only maybe you can follow oral history. You may go to the plantation and you can take the interview. You can take the interview of the laborers. But I don't think so. Those laborers are still surviving. Maybe one or two, maybe one or two, maybe. And also, I tell you, Burma is very strange case. I'll tell you, I'm explaining that Maestri system.
Yes.
I think Kangani is little far better than this Maestri system, because I'll tell you the Maestri system, which had its own problem. Only one study I told, a student, I don't know his full name, but his name is, I'll just tell you while at the end of the lecture, Jaiswal. Okay. His surname is Jaiswal.
Yes, sir, it is much as well. I follow his articles and the work.
Yeah, only this work is available on Maestri system. He worked on Maestri system, not on the Kangani much. Okay, his thesis was fully focusing on Maestri system. That's what you have to read his thesis. Maybe you will get some literature there.
Okay, sir.
Atul.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm following the. I could not found the thesis.
You come to Delhi University and you go to history department and or you go to library section. You ask his thesis. You may come to know some literature. Okay.
Sure, sir. Thank you so much. Yes,
that's the only way for you, because I told you this is very less studied, and also documents are very scarce. Not unlike the endangered system. Okay, so
thank you, sir. Yes,
that's the only, Atul. You can come to DU library and look for his thesis, and photocopy his bibliography. Okay. So once you do get the bibliography of his thesis, it will be helpful for your research. You will get to know the secondary sources. Maybe,
okay, sir.
Maybe you can go to archives and check the documents, by the government. They may have some documents, may have some, note,
Okay.
on this system, but we lack sources. I mean, archival sources. That's what I have found out. Okay.
Oh, okay, sir. I will follow that.
Yes, Atul, thank you for this question. Now we are discussing about Mestri system. And this Mestri system, see, based upon the archaeological, literary, and folklore sources, the different streams of Indian labor migration from the different parts of India to Burma can be traced back. So you got it, Atul. See, you have to follow on literary and folklore sources,
Yes, sir.
and also, archaeological little bit. Literary sources means some secondary sources. Folklore means, that poems, the songs, songs written by these laborers. Maybe will give you an idea, so you have to read those sources only to find out about labors, because Burma was part of British India. So there were a lot of, to and fro, migration. It was not so, there was no boundary, which was very close to India, like any other near neighboring state. So there was no documents for, it's like internal migration. Okay, so that's the thing, and that's why we lack so much of sources. Okay, very informally, operated, regulated system. The immigration of Indians to Burma gained popularity after the annexation of Burma or Myanmar to the British in 19th century. Okay, Indian migration to Burma had begun in 1830s. It gained momentum in 1880s after the annexation of Burma with India. Okay, just give me a minute. Okay. See, unlike Malaya, the Mestri system was the only exclusive labor recruitment mechanism to meet the growing demand of the unskilled laborers to the colonial economy of Burma. So only Mestri system was adopted. No Kangani, no endangered labor migration to Burma. Only Mestri system was adopted to Burma. This is the point you have to understand, very important point. The Indian mobility to Burma was sustained, regulated, and stimulated by the networks of Mestri. Okay, so they were the one who were the recruiters and also supervisors for different tasks. The Indian shipping, okay, the Chettiars of Tamil merchant caste, okay, they were the one who were having agricultural lands in Burma. Okay, they funded the Mestris to recruit laborers from the Madras presidency, mostly Telugu laborers from Vizag, Vizag part of the Andhra Pradesh. They went to Burma. The push factors were exploitative land revenue structure in India, landlessness, famines, epidemics, cost restrictions, forced the unskilled Indian laborers to take up immigration to Burma. Okay, that's the thing. And majority of the Indian migrants to Burma were from the peninsular parts of the British India. It is known as Telugu phenomenon, as the majority of the laborers were from Andhra region of erstwhile Madras presidency. In Telugu, Burma, they are known as Gurangi, to the local people as well as the press, the government. Atul, you have to note this point. The documents, they are written like Gurangi. Gurangi means Telugu laborers in Burma. Since the Andhra migrated earlier times, the whites called Gurangi because they left from the port. Gurangi is the present day East Godavari district, coastal Andhra Pradesh. A port was known as Gurangi. That was called Gurangis. Okay, that's a point. Then what are the important features of this Mestri system of Burma? The word Mestri is believed to be derived from the Portuguese word Mestri, which means master in English. It's a Portuguese term which means master in English. It's informally used to denote a labor recruit contractor who enters into an agreement or written contract with the organization or employers to supply laborers for a specified period. Okay, so Mestris got into contract with the employer, okay, or any organization. He promised them he would supply laborers, all that. The Mestris were generally drawn from the higher caste of Indian men who could speak fluent Burmese and enjoyed a good position in his native place and in place of work. Jaiswal says this, okay? The Mestri was a recruiter cum supervisor for laborers employed in mills, factories, and other commercial and industrial establishments. Not only Mestris largely recruited the unskilled Indian laborers for the European firms, but also for non-European firms like Burmese, Indian, Chinese. Okay, so they recruited for all the firms, companies like rice mills. Burma had lots of rice mills. They needed Indian laborers. So the Mestris were supplying them, not only for plantations. Okay, commercial establishments also recruited Indian laborers. The Mestris were all not only recruiting their village men and kin and friends, but also extended their recruitment drive by inducing strangers. Unlike Kangani, they recruited only kinsmen mainly. But Mestri system was like the indigenous system. They recruit everyone, even strangers who could emigrate. Okay. Same way, advance money helped them to clear the loans, to free themselves from the shackles of the debt acquired from the native landlords. The laborers were released, so he was taken to Burma. Cash advances were given, okay, and also the advance was recovered through monthly deductions from the salary, okay. And but I told you these acts, Workmen's Breach Contract Act, the Labor Act, these acts were, giving some kind of, legal binding to the workers recruited through Mestri system. The Mestri system had an informal internal hierarchy. It's called labor contractor at the top, head Mestri, charge Mestri, gang Mestri. At the bottom level, you have the strength of the laborers under a Mestri, So the Mestri system had a hierarchy of the laborers. Okay, that's the point we have to understand here. The Mestri system also relatively structured, hierarchical, graded, a well-defined labor relationship. Okay, the Mestri had a control of disbursement of wages and had the power of hiring the laborers. Okay, then this Mestri advanced debt method of Mestri system was also given legal validity. I told you some acts were legally binding on the Mestri laborers. Okay, so the Mestri laborers, they took the advance money and that money was deducted from his salary. And like Kangani in Ceylon, the Mestri was having the control to distribute the salary to the laborers. Okay, so this is about the Mestris. Okay, hierarchy-based system, and also Mestri had the control over the laborers. He was exploitative, and also he was a very strong figure. He was the link between the employer and the laborers. Okay, it was also equally exploitative labor recruitment system, which was practiced in Burma. So these are the difference between the Mestri and Kangani system. Mestri is little formal than Kangani. That's what I mean. Not so formal, but little formal than the Kangani system. That's the difference. And also the Mestri also, like Kangani, he had a lot of power, to recruit and also to supervise, to hire and fire laborers. All these similarities are there. Okay, so this is what Ritesh Kumar Jaiswal. That's what Atul. This Atul, are you there?
Yes, sir. I have read this article.
Yeah, this Ritish Kumar Jaiswal was the one who studied on the Mesri system, not on the Kangani Mesri system. And Heidman, studied on Kanganis in Sri Lanka and Malaysia. Only these two works are available, on this base 3 and Kangani system for your reading. Okay, so I think that will give you more detailed, analysis about the system. I think Atul, what aspect you're looking at? See.
Actually, sir, my topic is Indian emigration to Burma, a study on the patterns of migration.
That's why I told you the labor migration stream is many. You have to identify what all types, maybe that you have to focus on. Don't focus on Mestri system because it is done by Ritish Kumar Jaiswal. So now you have to focus on what kind of migration, like labor migration, professional migration, even for example, priest. Many Indian priests went for Burma. So these things you have to see. You have to trace out the different kinds of streams of Indians who left from India to Burma. That you have to focus on. Okay. So anyway, all the best to your work. So this is what I want to discuss with you all about Kangani and Mestri system. Any questions? I'm ready to take up. The floor is open for question answer session now. Yes. Any questions from anyone who have been listening to me? Yes. Hello.
Hello, sir.
Hello,
Yes,
Hello, sir.
Yes, Vijaya, go ahead.
Actually, I was keeping quiet so that everybody should get chance to, come up with the new questions. Otherwise, all the time I'm occupying the time. And my son was clearly saying, you are one of the students who always doesn't give chance to others to speak. So,
okay.
Well, sir, my question is this regarding
that's good. Yeah, Vijaya,
finally you realized it, Vijayaji. You realized it.
No. I have that realization since long time, but still I want my question also to be heard. Anyways, it's my son who stopped
I want next question from Sudesh. Yes, Sudesh, be ready with your question.
Well, sir, my question. I'll finish my question, sir. Please.
Okay, sir. This is a similar word, Mestri. Today I am in Telangana, but many migrant workers, they're working in construction field. Mestri we called in Telugu. Mestri will come with a group of laborers. 7, 10. He taken that work contract, building work, and he engaged with them, and he giving advance earlier 6-7 months. They worked in Telangana, and after that he left to Andhra Pradesh. After 3-4 months, they will come back to Telangana. Many bus services, train services in the name of Palamuru, Kanigiri, West Godavari East. Many more from Chitturu. These are all in Telangana. It's a practice going on.
Yes. And also, Sudesh, I want to tell you one professor from Osmani University, Adappa Satyanarayana has written on this.
Yeah, Adappa Satyanarayana. Yeah.
He has also written on this Telugu migration to Burma, Malaya.
Yes, we know him.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead. Yes. Yes, Vijaya.
Sir, my question is there any movie which shows life about Kanganis and Mestri system? Because in Hindi movies, if you see, there are many movies were streamed about Zamindari system and all. So is there any Tamil or other regional language movies?
Yeah. There is one movie called Pardesi.
It's in Tamil?
Tamil, yes. Yeah, it's a very good movie on this Kangani laborers in Sri Lanka.
Is it old or new? Pardesi?
I think it's maybe 2004-5 like that. No, it was a movie. It was made on this Kangani laborers who were suffering in, the laborers, plantation laborers, about their life in the plantation and all that. So what is Pardesi? Pardesi means, poor, you are I mean, you are nowhere. Like that's the meaning of Pardesi in Tamil.
Yeah, I often heard my Tamil friends saying when they get angry, they use this word.
Yeah, it's an abusive term. It's an abusive term. Pardesi means you don't have anyone. You are like that's the meaning, you know. So you maybe you watch that movie, it will give you an idea. But maybe the movies are, you know, it's a fiction. So, but still, you get some facts about the reality. That's really, yeah. But less movies are, but there are, I think, one or two movies, but I am not able to recall now. But there are some movies about this plantation laborers' life in Sri Lanka, particularly, and also to some extent Malaysia. And also, I think this recent movie, you know, by Rajinikanth, this Kabali, I don't know, Kabali or some movie is about this Malaysian Tamil laborers, you know, that's what I think Kabali, Rajinikanth's movie also talks about the Malaysian Tamils' life in plantation and all that, gangsterism, you know, all that.
Thank you, sir.
These laborers, you know, they all become gangsters in those countries because of exploitative, all that. So they became finally gangsters, you know, because they could not find out avenues to come up. So they just slogged on the plantation, no education, all that. So finally they emerged as the gangsters and all. So that's what. Yes, Vijaya.
Same like KGF also. KGF, that recently released movie. That
Okay.
also shows somewhat labor's related storyline.
That's nice. So I think there are movies, but I know only these are one or two movies, but you have to just get hold of some, you know, film critic. He might tell you the pictures on this. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, thank you for your questions. I hope Kangani system, I think in Malaysia and Ceylon, then Mestri system was followed in Burma. Okay, that's what we have to keep in mind. Only one system which was followed in Burma was Mestri system, no other system. But in Malaysian case, endanger was there, then it was replaced with Kangani system. That's what you have to understand. Yes. So I will stop here and we'll break for lunch. I hope Dr. Sahu is back again to wrap up. Dr. Sahu, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah.
So thank you, Dr. Mahalingam. It is actually, I learned a lot about different types of
yeah, thank you
also, and very exciting. And
also I like to thank your students. They're very, you know, good asking questions.
No, I feel motivated because of them. They have been so nice.
Yeah, I mean,
they're already at the research level.
Yeah, today I could interact with Sudesh and New Era, all these people, new people, Abba, you know.
Sudesh and Abha both are already, you know, deep into this area.
Okay.
So others also, like Atul is saying, he's working on Burma. Panu is working on return migration. All of them are, you know, involved. So
okay.
have good interaction. In future also, I'll invite you.
Okay.
This thing. And thank you, Dr. Mahalingam.
Thank you, Dr. Sahu, for this opportunity to give my lecture and also to interact with your students who are from far off places. Yes.
And thank you all for sparing your time. Thank you our students. We'll be coming again next Saturday.
Yes.
Goodbye. Okay. Bye.